everyone. Welcome to this episode of Context is King. I'm Rebecca Brayton, and with me as always is WatchMojo founder and CEO Ashkan Karbasfrooshan to discuss Succession. Why not? Let's talk about HBO. No, I'm kidding. We're not.
Well, recently we were talking about, I forgot what, but just projects and ideas, and I think I mentioned like this concept I had based on Alexander the Great. Like
You don't say.
You don't say. But it was just more like Arrested Development, Malcolm in the Middle, where it was like this kid who's like 18, 19, wants to take over his dad's, Greek dairy product business and turn it into like a cool fashion brand or like an app business. And he's plotting with his mother to overthrow his dad. And he's kind of being whispered in his ear by his like gay friend companion, And you're like, oh, Succession. And I am well aware of what Succession was, by the way. But when you're running a company, you always get into these shows later. I saw Mad Men years after it started, Silicon Valley, I haven't even started, I won't lie, watching Billions, which is on my to-watch list eventually. And you're like, oh, Succession. So I was like, okay, I should go watch it. So I did. And I understand why it won the Golden Globe for Best Drama. It's a great, great show.
Okay. I haven't actually seen it, so it's very like Shakespearean, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing, right? So, I mean, it's not like I watched this and I was like, oh my God, again, it continues, like my first idea, white life, fiduciary duty becomes Suits. And Suits eventually was adapted for like the lawyer, legal venue, but initially actually was also like my initial idea around investment banking, but that's okay. But
there
I think
are only so many ideas.
The ideas are nothing. That's actually my point, which is, it is, like you said, Shakespearean. These are themes that have been covered by storytellers forever. And I think what you're seeing now is two things. One is, when we launched ContextTV, I explained that this concept of entrepreneurship, and not everybody's an entrepreneur, but everybody has to be entrepreneurial, and the work-life balance, work-life play balance and all that. I was like, if you look at just Hollywood, in the 80s and 90s, you had Wall Street, you had Glenn Ross, you had Boiler Room. You didn't have that many shows or movies. Now, if you just look at scripted, Mad Men, Billions, Silicon Valley, Succession, these are just themes of betrayal, ambition, hubris, yada, yada, that before could, like Suits, just been flipped to be, instead of banking, legal or ER, or relationships or high school. Now, the canvas is business. The canvas is entrepreneurship and media and all this, because it's just where the world is going, right? So I found it really, really interesting. And no, at no point was I like, they stole my idea at all. It's the opposite. I was like, these are just basically themes that captivate people since the dawn of history, but the canvas that makes sense is business. Now, what I did realize is how wrong I was about approaching scripted projects. So a few years ago, when I started to dabble and work on my little universes and characters and Bibles for eventually, in a post-WatchMojo existence, maybe eventually serve as an executive producer, some kind of advisor or consultant to some of these shows, it's not about, like in this case, the world of media, the world of succession planning. It's really all about the writing. It's all about the writing. It's all about the characters, and it's so true that like, what's your favorite show, by the way, before I give this example? What are you watching now? That's the favorite show.
I don't know. Maybe
we're not going to have the Seinfeld Friends debate again. No. So what's your favorite?
Schitt's Creek, maybe.
Schitt's Creek. Okay. So Schitt's Creek, I've probably seen 5 to 10. It's great, but
it's all about the writing and the acting.
It's all about the art. And I was reading an article in some American publication, might have been Vanity Fair, and there's always this Canadian, I call it the Drake effect, this like Canadian discount. Like Canadians, we don't actually, am I excluding or including myself? I don't care. But like my point is, as Canadians, we tend to not support or give proper respect to things that are Canadian and good. They go out of Canada, have a shitload of success, and then we're always like, hey, I always believed in you, buddy.
For the record, I did always believe in it, but that's a whole other
Yeah, but it's because I think we also, being in the industry, may not have that shit, because we are a Canadian export that had to go and get global success for the Canadians to then kind of be like, hey, WatchMojo's Canadian, gnarly. Do Canadians say gnarly? I don't think they do.
I don't think anybody
but this art... Well, apparently I do. But the thing with this article about Schitt's Creek, and I will make sure that there's a nice screen grab of it right now, was they were saying how the son there would kind of Dan Levy, I forgot this, Dan, yeah. So Dan Levy would hole himself up and spend weeks developing the characters until they were right. And where I was wrong about this, and I knew it was all about the characters. I'm not saying I didn't know, but where I was like, oh, I could maybe like flip it on its head was, I was like, I know the universe really well. I know the universe, and I also get the personality, like insecurities and drive and all that well, and I could bring it together. But I realized if I had to do it again, so meaning in the future when I revisit this, I will absolutely, like, I drink the Kool-Aid. I've been, humbled by the world of scripted, which is, yeah, like you do have to basically just start with the characters and go really, really make these characters, and then everything else kind of falls into place. So when I was watching Succession, I binged over the holidays, the season 1 and 2. Yeah, it's basically, once you have the bios of these characters, the story kind of writes itself because it's the same things that you've seen in King Lear and Hamlet and Macbeth and all that. And it's great. Yeah, highly recommend it to you.
All right. Well.
And it's not over. You're going to see a couple more. The Adam Newman WeWork inspired series, as well as Uber. And I'm telling you, it's like a new decade. If in 2010, let alone 2006, but even if in 2010 I would have told you, in the future, the Batmans and the what turned out to be Game of Thrones and the Lord of the Rings are not going to be these niches for geeks. They're going to be mainstream, and let's do biographies and origins of these comic books, and let's start covering this universe. People thought I was deranged. I'm telling you, in a decade's time, this stuff is going to be front and center, and it actually already is. You go to CNN, and they're talking about Succession the way they used to talk about, Die Hard and a few just recently Batman and, Iron Man and all that. So I think this is the canvas where you now explore these issues that storytellers have covered for eternity.
All right. What's your favorite business-related show? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time.